Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Dr. Balala, and good morning to my classmates. My report is on the extension system of the United States of America. Let's start with a short story. Here is Corey Childs. He is with the Virginia Cooperative Extension, and he happens to check 200-pound bags of wool at the Clark County Raritan Fairgrounds in Berryville, Virginia. State cooperative extensions are transforming themselves in an effort to remain relevant in these challenging times of conducting agricultural activities. Similar transformations are happening across the country as state cooperative extensions also work to stay relevant in an era of smaller budgets, fewer farmers, a more diverse population, and modern technology. Why is it important that we study the extension system of USA? Agriculture extension played a significant role in developing management practices based on crop and livestock research, helping increase production to where U.S. farmers often profit and also export goods to an international market. So, in many respects, U.S. extension is really a model for the entire world. What is the purpose of extension service in earlier times? The major purpose of the service primarily was to set up rural people to obtain the information needed and to develop the skills required to solve many of their problems in farming, homemaking, and community development. So, agricultural extension educational programs in the entire world have developmental roots utilizing applied research knowledge in order to help farmers deal with identified problems and focusing primarily on the production practices. So, agricultural extension programs around the world have developmental roots and they utilize research knowledge in order to help farmers deal with identified problems, focusing primarily on those production practices. The approach of extension services during the earlier times is on problem solving in response to a learner defined obstacle in farming, such as pests, disease, low yields, probably natural disaster, and their crops are being affected with that natural disaster. So it is with the intent of improving the learner's welfare. That means, despite those challenges, they can have increased yields and higher net returns. So the initial focus of extension work was on the adoption of fixed, generalizable research based practices and decisions such as technology adoption and adjustments to deal with common farming problems. So if you notice in USA, before in the earlier times, they already apply they already have already adopted research-based decision making in their farming practices. So that's why right now we don't wonder why why they're one of the most pop they have one of the most popular extension model in the entire world. So probably even in our country in the Philippines, then as long as we don't start doing research, then we can actually never progress as much as other countries are or as much as USA have done. So we really need research based decision making or scientific based decision making in our farming system. So areas of research is one of the primarily important field that in order to address the problems concerning the agriculture. So the purpose of extension service in the modern era. As more complex marketing, pricing, and regulatory issues become prevalent in the agricultural sector, informational education become more important as timely and accurate data must be provided to the farmers in order to support their decision making. So, extension is a critical link between the farmers and more complex and more highly regulated markets as value added and entrepreneurial opportunities emerge. So, in this modern era of their extension service, USA already has included the farmers, so that means by giving them informational education on how to deal with those complexities involving the agricultural sector, and of course to help them with their decision making. So it's not just the state who does the decision making, but specifically the farmers are involved. The original form of the organization was developed to serve agriculture interests, but later home economics, youth work, public affairs, and rural area development. So these areas are actually part of the programs offered in the extension system of the USA. So, to solve the problems centered around increasing efficiency in producing marketing and utilizing crops and livestock, conserving natural resources, obtaining credit, improving transportation, preserving food for family use, and developing interest groups. This is part of the solutions that USA has done for to improve its extension system in the country, in the state rather. So let's look back at the history of the extension system of USA. Later on, we will discuss what we can learn from the history of the extension system of USA. So first, in 1785, a society for promoting agriculture was organized in Philadelphia to disseminate agricultural information through publications, newspapers, and articles. Now, as early as 1785, they have already conducted research. In 1796, George Washington suggested to the Congress the establishment of a National Board of Agriculture. So, George Washington is one of the presidents of America, really made an impact in not just in the entire state, but specifically even in agriculture as well, as he suggested the establishment of a National Board of Agriculture. In 1811, the Berkshire Agricultural Society of Massachusetts organized agricultural fairs, sale of farm products, and exhibits. In 1852, the U.S. Agriculture Society was founded with representatives of 23 different states. 1854, the Farmers Institute start. So that means the schooling of the farmers. Then 1867, the Grange organization was formed. In 1884, the Bureau of Animal Husbandry was organized. In 1887, the Hatch Act established experiment stations. In the 1900s, 13 clubs to work with rural boys and girls were developed in many states. So as early as 1900s, they have already involved the youths to work on or to volunteer for agricultural services as early as 1900s. In 1902, a National Farmers Union was organized. In 1903, teaching by demonstration started by Seaman Knapp. In 1914, of course, the Smith-Lever Act coordinated extension work nationally, and which until today, this Smith-Lever Act is still being applied. About 170 years ago, nearly 75% of the population of the USA was dependent on agriculture. The agricultural system was introduced in 1897. So in the USA, between 1910 to 1955, the number of tractors increased from 1,000 to 4.4 million, and horsepower decreased from 24.2 million to 5 million during the same period. The production agriculture dominated the US economy on the early 20th century, with 41% of the workforce employed in agriculture, then compared to the 1.9% employed in 2000 to 2002. So, originally called the Agricultural Extension Service, Congress established it and had made it to Cooperative Extension Service through the Smith-Lever Act of 1914, and this Cooperative Extension Service still stands today as the term for their agricultural extension system. The agricultural productivity by American farmers can be attributed by a vigorous and rapidly developing system that included components of supply, marketing, governance, research, and education extension. So, from the beginning, the emphasis in the agricultural extension service has been on educating farmers. The Agricultural Extension Service has related its flexibility, changing its organization and program content from time to time in order to meet the changes. Of course, it's similar to other extension countries that we've discussed. They have um, updated and upgraded the projects and the programs in order to meet the demands of the current time. The increase in the farm's output raised the standard of the living of the Americans. So they purchased farm machines, household appliances, and eventually this gave rise to industrialization. The size of holdings increased as people sold their farms and shifted to industries and other occupations. So today, that's why um, because of urbanization and even in our country and what I've learned from China, um, they now have decrease in uh, farms because or they have shortage of farms due to urbanization and industrialization. The economic size of holdings, the use of machinery in place of bullocks, farm investment, balancing in farming, and adjustments in crop patterns and the technology provided to the farmers by their extension agency or etc. have brought about a rise in their standard of living. So in 1970, every farmer had electricity in their farm household, pipe running water, mechanical refrigerators, and also television and telephone. Much of the credit for improved technology and its adoption by the farmers at such a rapid pace goes to the land grant colleges and the integrated service, which is the cooperative extension service. The universities provide solutions to the problems of the farmers, and the integrated approach of local, state, and federal government with the staff of AU has helped to minimize, or American universities have helped to minimize the gap between the best known technology and the technology actually used by the farmers. And this is where universities are and colleges are really crucial for the development of extension surveys or agriculture in the USA. So, organizational structure of USA's extension system, the land grant college system from 1862 and which still stands today. Based on my research, there are 112 um, universities and colleges who have this land grant college system or land grant university system. The roots of the U.S. agricultural extension go back to the 1862 Morrill Act and the creation of the land grant university system in order to educate citizens in practical agriculture. So the Morrill Act was crucial for the development of the land grant college or university system, but that was in 1862. And until now, this land grant university system or college grant system is still applied in almost all state, almost all country of the United States of America. The outreach mission of the land grant institution was further expanded by the passage of the Smith-Lever Act of 1914, which eventually created the Cooperative Extension Service manifest through the land grant university in every state in USA. So today, the U.S. agricultural extension in each state continues to be managed by land grant universities. So if you noticed, from 1862 until today, the USA has strongly built its agricultural extension system and have it sustainable due to the land grant institution system that they have created starting from the Morrill Act and strengthened until today through the Smith-Lever Act of 1914, which eventually led to the creation of the Cooperative Extension Service. And we have here the different states. So if you notice, almost all states have its a land grant colleges and universities. So from 1862, you can see the uh, red signs or legend, and then of course there were additional land grant universities in 1890, as you can see on the stars, and then by 1994. So those were the additional land grant colleges and universities by 1994. That's why almost in every state there is the land grant college and university. For some, there can only be one land grant college or university, but in other states there are two or more land grant universities. And these are examples of the land grant universities. We have the Cornell University, Texas A&M University College State, Iowa State University, Penn State University, the Ohio State University, etc. So actually, the first state, the first college land grant, the first land grant college system was Kansas State University. So that's the fourth university on this second alignment of the university, second row. Then these are just some examples of those land grant universities. Farm demonstration work is part of the reasons why they have their strong extension system right now. Farm demonstration work began in 1903 when Dr. Seaman appointed 22 men in the southern states to demonstrate the best methods of growing cotton under boll weevil conditions. So they just happened to demonstrate those. That's why it's farm demonstration. In 1914, the Congress passed the Smith-Lever Act, creating a nationwide cooperative extension service, or the CES. And it's so called as that because it is a cooperative agreement or arrangement between the government, the land grant colleges, and the people. So it is also a partnership agency in which the officials of the government, federal, state, and county sit in council together with the rural people, and together they analyze local conditions, They stock the stack of their resources and make help to carry out programs for the financial, educational, and social benefit of the community and its individual members. So at the national level, for example, the Farmers Home Administration um, combines credit for low-income farmers with extension education. Soil Conservation Service usually had educational, technical, and financial services for the farmers. And many other organizations, whether private, cooperative, or public, had a similar share in the extension education. So, because of that Smith-Lever Act, it joined together, it enforced the joining of the different agencies in order to strengthen the agricultural system in USA. So, the associations, part of the associations would include cooperatives, commercial, feed, seed, and machinery dealers, radio stations, farm organizations. So these are just some of those associations. And then the Cooperative State Research, Education, and Extension Service is another agency within the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is part of the executive branch of the federal government. So the 1994 Department of Free Organization Act, passed by the Congress, created the CSRS by combining the former CES, Cooperative State Research Service, and the Extension Service into a single agency. So in 2009, CSRS was recognized into the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. The CES is a non-formal educational program implemented in the United States designed to help the people use research based knowledge in order to improve their lives. The service is provided by the state's designated land grant universities. So, in most states, the educational offerings are in the areas of agriculture and food, home and family, the environment, community economic development, and youth, and including the 4 H. The National 4-H headquarters is located within the Families 4-H and Nutrition Unit of CSRES. Now, what is this 4-H clubs? The 4-H club is actually part of the programs of the extension system of USA. This is an organization of boys and girls from 10 to 20 years of age with a definite program of farm and home development and personal and social development. It is a part of the National Agricultural Extension System, and it has also been given the name 4-H Club because the club members are expected to have 4-H, which includes the head, the heart, the hands, and the health. So this one is an example from the website that I've taken from the Ohio State University. So if you notice, part of their programs would be the 4-H youth development, community development, agriculture and natural resources, and family and consumer sciences. So they focus on these four themes for their extension and outreach service to the community. And if you notice, they build better lives, better business, and better communities since 1914. So uh, even though Kansas State University was recognized as the first land grant institution, but Ohio State University is one of the famous uh, extension university in USA. And we have here the tools that they use for their meeting during extension services. And this one is really interesting because you have the circle. You can do a lot of activities here, like are they going to conduct business meetings to make group decisions for 20 minutes? Will they do a project work, a show and tell, a demonstration? Or will they have a program activity for 40 to 60 minutes, such as service activities, tours, educational materials? So Ohio State University also adapted this one from another state university, the 4-H meeting tool. And this one is an example from the website that I've taken from the New Mexico State University. And on the on the right side of the screen are their programs, which also involves 4-H youth development and education, energy and water, farm and ranch, and then health and family well-being, natural resources, and then lastly yard and garden. So these are their uh, New Mexico New Mexico's extension and outreach system. And on the left is an example as part of their program for 4-H youth development education. So we have here the innovative media research and extension. So if you notice, the children are also involved in the extension as part of their target beneficiaries for their extension system. And these examples here are these are applications as part of New Mexico State University's extension system. So we have here Ninja Kitchen, so a cafe staffed entirely by ninjas, sophisticated gameplay review. Okay, another example is the science of agriculture. It fills gaps in undergraduates' knowledge of, okay, probably agriculture. And then don't wash your chicken. Don't wash, if germs are visible to the naked eye, you would see that. So these are actually just part of the examples of their uh, New Mexico State University's extension and outreach services. So by developing this online based modules or probably applications, then afterwards they use it to the community in order to help the children, or not just the college students, also gain knowledge and skills from the for the agricultural service. So if you notice, these apps are actually into agriculture: Ninja Kitchen, Science of Agriculture, Don't Wash Your Chicken, Fresh and Dirty, Kid Eats, Night of the Living Dead. So these are just some of those, but they actually have many projects as part of their extension system. Now, of course, we will go to the policies in USA. So the Cooperative Extension Service, our organization, operates at three levels: the national, the state, and the county. So at the national level, the Federal Extension Service carries out three important functions: the relationship function and the leadership and the assistance function. The National Association of State Universities and Land Grant Colleges or universities helps member institutions to cooperate with each other, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture in formulating national extension programs and policies. So actually, example is the extension system of the New Mexico State University. As an example of one university, they collaborate with the stakeholders and other state universities or colleges in order to come up with this extension service or extension program. And then that's why they have developed those apps, those online activities, and other services. Matters of Organization and Policy, known as ECOP. It is made up of 12 members elected by the directors of 4 regions. So we have here the Federal Congress Secretary, um, which is together with the United States Department of Agriculture, and then also the Secretary, Director of Extension. Then the state legislators, which include the Land Grant Institution, President of Governing Board, the College of Agriculture, Research, Teaching, Cooperative Extension Service, the Director of Extension, Supervisors and Specialists, and of course other colleges as part of the state legislatures. Then the county government, that includes county sponsoring organization, county extension service, and county extension agents. Then, of course, the citizens or the stakeholders, which includes the leaders, the members, and the cooperators. So the summary of functions. First, the Federal Director of Extension represents the Secretary of the Agriculture in the states, in the counties, and the colleges. So, associated with the director are a group of administrative officials, liaison officers, and subject matter specialists. The Federal Directorate develops these policies that affects agriculture. Second, the State Extension Director. He or she is the leader responsible for the operation of the directorate in the state. He is responsible for the administration and execution of all the duties and obligations agreed upon the land grant colleges and the United States Department of Agriculture. So the State Extension Director, that is, of course, that's for every country. He oversees the relationships, the leadership, the assistance needed for the land grant universities or among those land grant universities in the as agreed upon in the United States Department of Agriculture. Moreover, he also administers all funds, looks after all projects and plans, and examines and approves all publications. And he is the link between the state and the United States Department of Agriculture in matters of rural development. So, the third one, the supervisors under the state directorate, are the representatives of the state director and his eyes and ears. So these supervisors actually interprets the extension objectives, methods, and procedures to the county personnel, and also bring those to the people or to the stakeholders or citizens. The supervisors also bring back to the state director the information about the problems, the needs, the activities, or and of the agents, and of course, what the needs of the people are. Fourth one, the state subject matter specialist. Each such specialist usually deals with one subject, but in some counties, he has to deal with several. So, for example, the subject matter specialist represents the subject matter department of the United States Department of Agriculture, the research stations, and the land grant colleges. So, in behalf of the director, he assists the county agents in their subject matter program. The fifth one, the county agents. The county is the crucial unit in extension work. The county activities are centered around the county agent, who is generally assisted by a home agent, who is an associate agent and an assistant agent. As an information, there is no paid staff below at the ground level, as it is considered that only an adequately trained person can impress the skeptical farmer and the rural people. So these country agents therefore cannot reach every individual farmer frequently, and therefore would need to approach and enthuse all through organized groups such as commodity organizations or multi-purpose clubs, the 4-H clubs, the Farm Bureau, the National Farmers Unit as examples. So the county agents' jobs are really crucial for um, the establishment or the implementing of those agriculture activities of the farmers through creating different clubs in order to reach those farmers. And number 6, the County Extension Council is an elected body composed of one man and one woman from each township in the county. So this council is responsible for arranging local financing and for assisting in planning, executing, and supervising county extension work. Now we have here as my next topic USA's extension model. Now let's look at the USA's extension model. So we have here federal, state, and local. So for the federal, as I've explained a while ago, it includes the USDA, Secretary, the NF, a NEFA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, the state, that includes the entire land grant universities, academic departments, experiment stations, cooperative extension, and for the local, of course, that includes the regional or county extension offices, the professional staff, and then the volunteers from the stakeholders or the citizens. So this model is still the model that they are using today. This one is like the general USA extension system model. Now, what are the guiding principles of the extension system of USA? First, the primary guiding principle for extension is the continued reliance on a strong foundation in research and its application to seek to create a better America. So, as what we've discussed earlier, they had already conducted research as early as their extension system has started. A second guiding principle is extension's continued relevance and connection to the local community, as evidenced by the programming and education efforts of extension professionals in every county, parish, and borough in the United States. And of course, the last but not the least guiding principle is extension's commitment to be innovative, to develop innovative educational approaches, including the use of new and evolving digital technologies. So those are their guiding principles today, which stands until today. So the model of agricultural extension in the U.S. is learning, in which extension agents learn from farmers being served, as well as listen and then link this one to research and markets in order to set their extension priorities. So that's what I appreciate about the US extension system, because it's not just the extension agents who are learning from the upper heads of the structural organization of the organizational structure of the system, but they really learn from the farmers in order to make unnecessary research and reach markets and services. And so that's part of their extension priorities. Hopefully that we can also do that here in the Philippines, that those leaders, those extensionists would listen to the farmers as their main source of how to improve those extension services in order to create the programs in the country, in our country. Under the extension as a learning approach, farmers and extension agents work together to address farmers' needs. So this two-way model allows for information and knowledge transfer to address farmers' needs. This two-way model allows for information and knowledge transfer to occur so that the farmers are informing research based upon their needs, and research provides applications back to the agricultural community. So the US extension model is a combination of technology transfer, problem solving, and imparting knowledge. Extension work is also guided by the principle of education for action. So therefore, the primary focus of technology transfer is to bring educational change in people in order to achieve knowledge and progress. So I also included in my report the women in agriculture in the USA. So women fill many roles in agriculture in the USA. They are also farmers, farm workers, ranchers, agricultural researchers, and educators. And women contribute to local food systems, direct farm marketing, farm business, planning, management, and more. Women represented 38% of about 300,000 persons involved in making decisions for the farms that sold food directly in 2015. Now, what are their let's look at the census of those women in agriculture. There's actually a gender gap in USA, similar to other countries, because women are not mostly into agriculture. So even in our country here, only few women would prefer or would pursue a career in the College of Agriculture. So we have here the census of women who are joining in agriculture in the USA. This one is based on a 2012 census of agriculture. So in 2012, there were 969,672 women farmers in the United States, and 14% of the nation's 2.1 million farms had a female principal operator in 2012. So this one is based in 2012, and this one is the latest data that they have in USA. So actually, it's only for 14% of women who are involved in agriculture. So that means there's really a gender gap that is existing in USA when it comes to agriculture services and programs. And this is not just existing in USA, of course. It's also true in our own country and in other countries. And then the 2012 USDA Census of Agriculture data analyzes specific characteristics of farms operated by women in race, ethnicity, and gender profiles. So I don't know if we have this census as well in agriculture in our country, in as conducted by the Department of Agriculture, but hopefully we do. So this women in agriculture blog, these are actually part of the programs or services to involve women in agriculture in the USA. For example, each month USDA shares stories of women in agriculture who are leading the industry and helping other women succeed along the way. So that's part of the Women in Agriculture blog and headed by the USDA. That is to enjoin women to tell their stories. And then this Women in Agriculture site of the US Department of Agriculture also describes USDA programs and initiatives that provide women with education, tools, and resources to take on the challenges of meeting the world's growing food, fuel, and fiber needs. So in this blog, actually, in this website, there's also the training tools for women. And hopefully in our country as well, we can also provide those training or tools even through online on what the women need when they deal with agriculture. And then of course they also have this women in agriculture publications and articles. So there are in the database of for example NALS Agricola or the National Agricultural Library. They have a database for articles, books, journals, and electronic resources about the about those women in agriculture. And then Women in Agricultural Learning Network is still functional today to help or to encourage women to join agriculture. So this Women in Agricultural Learning Network is a web portal with information on resources, support education, technical assistance, and networking opportunities for women farmers, ranchers, and producers, and is maintained by the Women in Agriculture National Learning Network, which is a national initiative. And so, of course, as I've said, to involve women. And the site includes a resource library, presentations, events, publications. Women share their knowledge, share their uh, um, acquired knowledge through conferences, through publications, and they meet together for different events. Next, Women's Leadership Program. So this one is conducted by the American Farm Bureau, and the program provides women with leadership training, communication skills, and networking in order to strengthen the ability of women to encourage positive change in their communities and in the agricultural industry. So many state farm bureau programs also have women's committees or women leadership programs. So even though reality even though reality exists that there is a gender gap in the USA's agricultural extension system, but they have certain programs that would encourage women to be in agriculture. Okay, so of course, this is although this women in agriculture presents gender gaps because there are more men who are involved in the farming system or in the agricultural system, extension system of USA, but it still is strength for USA because they have managed to also involve women. But there's also the weakness of USA's extension system, and based on my research, um, despite a participatory needs assessment and program design approach in place at the local level, the U.S. agricultural extension system has often also been criticized. Why? Well, because of the lack of timeliness in response to issues, the extension agents' unwillingness to make recommendations, and significant influence in needs identification by the agents, resulting in educational programs that are not germane to the client's problems. I think this is not only in USA, but it's also true to some countries. Once they neglect the decision making or the sides or the priorities from the side of the farmers, so eventually the what the extension agents are doing will not be um, cannot address the problems needed for supposed to be for the educational programs of the farmers. So clients are often utilizing the expertise of private consultants and firms. So for instance, a recent survey conducted in Iowa found that less than one-third of the citizens utilize the services of Iowa State University Extension. Yes, kasi nga, the extension agents activities or results of their influence in the decision making in the needs identification um, has an effect on their choices that eventually those programs and services are not really meeting the real needs of the clients and of the farmers. Of course, USA's extension system today. Agricultural extension in the US is supported by public tax dollars, and the extension audience through formal needs assessment and informal feedback has some influence on the decisions for type of research information and extension services needed. And I think that an formal needs assessment and informal feedback is really crucial for the success of the extension service or program. So when conducting a research or when giving what the needs of the farmers are or the citizens are, so of course there's a need for a needs assessment and at least gather feedback from the farmers or from the from the clients. The federal, state, and local governments jointly fund the U.S. Cooperative Extension Service. So this decentralized extension system has an extension office in nearly every county within each state. And although the systems across the US vary, generally the local government provides about one third of the funding and the other two-thirds of the funding in extension systems around the country, which comes through state and federal contributions. So today, the US provides agricultural extension services to people in primarily the four program areas. So, such as agriculture and natural resources, which we have seen in Ohio State University, the 4-H youth development to involve the young men and women, family living and nutrition, and community development and leadership. So, for more than a century, the purpose, vision, and values of the U.S. Extension System are guided by the influence of the land grant mission, practical applications of research based knowledge by the citizen. So, um, after being self-sufficient in food supply for the citizens, the U.S. agricultural extension is now focused on those market-driven agriculture production for commercialization and export. And it is also working towards developing environmental leadership among the country community citizens, for which it implements, or USA implements, programs that lead to the sustainable natural resources such as water quality, the crop nutrient management, the food safety and organic farming, and of course the application of nanotechnology in agriculture. So by its structure, located within the US, within the land grant universities, the US system incorporates both research and extension work under the same umbrella. So, in other words, extension's input is considered as important for guiding research to generate technology based on the client's needs and feedback. And I also agree with this one because extension work and research should also go together so that we can really provide the real needs of the clients. Subject matter specialists are located at the land grant universities in each state, and most have joint research and extension appointments, so they may be the same person. Um, this helps to create stronger linkages between research and extension if they are the same subject matter specialists who do the research and extension services. So this specialists provide regular training programs for extension educators as well as private sector firms. Under the mandate of many state authorized certifications, the private sector agricultural advisors are required to complete continuing education and professional training provided by the land grant universities. So, this approach ensures that farmers receive up to date technical advice from both public extension and private sector advisors. That's why in USA, their most of their universities are offering or are completing extension education degree or similar fields in order to by the land grant universities in order to develop those necessary skills and competencies needed for a better establishment of the extension services in the country. I mean, in the entire state. The U.S. extension is now geared toward building its capacity to provide agriculture extension services to international communities and meet the needs of global agriculture and food securities. However, there are also changing patterns. The shift toward high value agricultural commodities to be primarily motivated by changes in food consumption patterns. So they are four key factors that contribute to this change. First is the rapid economic growth allows consumers to shift from grains and starchy staples to higher value foods. Then, the urbanization accelerates the shift by changing lifestyles and increasing exposure to the media and the availability of high value foods. Third, more liberal trade policies create new export and import opportunities. And fourth, less restrictions on foreign direct investment change food marketing channels, and particularly on food processing and retail distribution. So, what can we learn from the development of American agriculture and the cooperative extension service? If we go through the history of the development of the extension service in the USA, we find that the professional people who became involved in this educational work also learned by doing. That means they really practice. They really go to the lower uh, branch. They really proceed to go to the local needs to meet the local needs of the community, and they really volunteer and exercise as extensionists because there were no pre-trained personnel. The individuals who found the ways to get the job done became leaders. But, of course, along the way in the history, there was a great area of trial and error and experimentation. Historically as well, the US government publicly supported research and extension on the grounds that research produces knowledge and extension disseminates it publicly for the common good. Because we know at an early on those early years of the extension system, US has already conducted extension along with research. So that's why you can see that how progressive they are when it comes to their extension system. Okay, so I've therefore, what can we learn? There needs to be an innovative way to engage agriculture extension specialists and the faculty members in developing a research and extension platform coupled with clear methods of identifying end users and innovative methods of delivery. And I also agree that we should not separate research and extension. I also included the national research agenda from the American Association for Agricultural Education, since we are having our dissertation in the coming years. So we might be able to gain an insight from this from their national agricultural research agenda. So their research priority one, public and policy maker understanding of agriculture and natural resources. So you might want to seek for answers to these questions. First one, what methods, models, and programs are effective for informing public opinions about agricultural and natural resources issues? Second, what methods, models, and programs are effective in preparing people to inform policymakers on agricultural and natural resources? Research priority area 2, new technologies, practices, and products adoption decisions. So, research priority questions: what methods, models, and practices are most effective in leading change? What methods, models, and practices are most effective in diffusing innovations? And then we can also research on their research priority 3, sufficient scientific and professional workforce that addresses the challenges of the 21st century. So we have here series of priority research questions, and I'll have an example one that you can actually research on. What are effective models for STEM integration in school-based agricultural education curriculum? What competencies are needed to effectively educate, communicate, and lead? Then research priority 4, meaningful engaged learning in all environments. So as an example, how do digital technologies impact learning on face-to-face and online learning environments? So I think this question is really interesting, especially during this COVID-19. What are the most effective models for delivering agricultural teacher education programs in order to reach the non-traditional audiences? How can delivery of educational programs in agriculture continually evolve to meet the needs and interests of the students? And this one is an interesting question in order to involve those students. How do we make project-based learning more relevant and contemporary in youth programs in agriculture and natural resources? Research priority number 5, efficient and effective agricultural education programs. So we have here a series of priority questions, but we might want to study on how can agricultural leadership, education, and community practitioners collaborate to deliver educational programs effectively. So that one is an interesting question, and you can do actually those questions you can locate for you can do a review of related literature in order to answer those questions, and by doing so, then eventually you might be able to come up with a topic based on your readings of a literature review. And then research priority 6, vibrant resilient communities. So we have here priority questions. How do agricultural leadership, education, and communication teaching, research, and extension programs impact local communities? What are the appropriate models for engaging volunteers in the delivery of educational programs in agriculture and natural resources? So if we address these questions, although this is USA's priority research questions, but it is also applicable to our country today, because we know that we really need to learn from the research and extension areas of USA, and we need to strengthen our research capabilities in the country. So similarly, by having these questions, this can also guide us in our formulation of our dissertation topics, and we can also later on, of course, we can also improve our agricultural extension system if we seek answers to these interesting questions, priority questions. But of course, we have to think globally. That means also adopting the best practices of other countries, but acting locally. So um, meeting the needs of the local farmers, for example. And then lastly, we have the research priority number 7. So addressing complex problems. And we have here a series of questions. So we can probably have one example. What methods, models, and programs are effective in preparing people to solve complex interdisciplinary problems such as climate change, food security, sustainability, water conservation, etc.? And these are really interesting priority questions to research on, because this address complex problems. Since USA has formulated this research priority questions, that means that these questions have not yet been answered, or probably have not been thoroughly answered by their research and extension uh, programs and services. So if US has not done so, that means we also need to address these questions in our local settings, in our Philippine settings. Now the conclusion. This one is also part of the strengths of the USA. The successful achievement of the Cooperative Extension Service in the United States may be attributed to its willingness and ability to change as the needs and interests of its clientele change. The goals and objectives of the entire system have been relaxed almost every decade and have shifted dramatically. The clientele established need and activity plans, and country, state, and national units tried to respond. In addition, neither national, state, nor country could control the system. The preventing and level from dominating the others and making the system rigid. Remarkable features are direct assessment of clients' needs, user-oriented research, quality training for state personnel, and a strong linkage between academic education and field practice, all thanks to the land grants institutions in USA. And Extension Service of the US is still the only system in which the main extension function remains within the university. While some developing countries have integrated educational institutions into practical work, and this is true today. In our country, those who actually do the extension service are those in the DNR, in the Department of Forestry, Agriculture. So it's just like saying that we have not really practiced extension systems in our work in in most universities of the country, but we have just recently included extension and outreach services in the university in recent times. So this the same way what other developing countries are doing. If you notice here, extension service in the US is the only system in which the main extension function remains within the university. So I have here my references. And then that's the end of my report.